Hi guys, I'm Dion, and today I'm reviewing Forever or Long Long Time by Kayla Carter. I got this book through Edelweiss in exchange for an honest review, and this book comes out March 7th, so keep an eye out for it. Forever or A Long Long Time is a middle grade book about two siblings who are finding their forever home after being in the foster system for quite some time. Flora and Julian are those siblings, and they have been adopted by Emily and her husband, but they are still struggling with the everyday reality of trusting that this really is their forever home. And we experience this story from Flora's point of view. We see how she struggles in school, and eventually they end up tracing back their pasts to understand more of what happened and how they came to be and how they got here. The writing style of this book is very engaging but simple enough. We follow Flora's point of view, and every other chapter or so there is like this sub-chapter which is like a theory of how she and her brother came to be, because they don't believe they are born. We are introduced to different characters throughout the story. Most important, of course, are Flora and Julian. Their adoptive mom's name is Emily, and there is like an adoptive dad in the picture as well as his biological daughter Elena, and we meet Flora's teacher as well. Relationships are well written, especially the one with Emily really takes shape throughout the story, and throughout the book we see them develop a deeper meaning of what family means and that things aren't always as simple. We also see that actually all of them make mistakes, but in the end they pull through. And in that way it's also a very realistic story, because it really portrays that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you make it up afterwards. The story, all of it is very real and very human without it being too much for the intended audience, because it's a kid's book, and that's just really a masterfully crafted balance. I can't say too much about the plot without spoiling it, of course, but Flora and Julian have a bit of trouble adjusting, and they are still afraid that Emily will not be their forever mom, even though she promises it. Some things come up, and after consulting their counselor, it is agreed that they should find out a little bit more about their past, so they know better where they came from, so they can start and give that a place. And this journey they take together with Emily. What was very cool is that language is chosen very meticulously and deliberately throughout this book. We experience the story throughout Flora's thoughts, so it can be too complicated language, of course, but in her mind she calls Emily person instead of mom. At the beginning this seems like really distant when you notice it, but it soon takes on a kind of neutral role when she explains why, and she says, I call her my mom when I'm talking to her or anyone else, but in my head I call her my person, because there have been too many mommies, and they all have different faces that blend together in my brain until they're one ugly face that doesn't make sense, and some of them were nice but others weren't nice, and they're all gone now anyway, and person says she'll here forever. What was really great about this book is that it mixes pretty serious topics effortlessly. Flora and Julian are mixed race, and this isn't talked about like as a heavy thing. It's just there. When it's talked about in a funny way without being degrading. It's just like, we slather on the sunblock that person always makes us wear, even though she's the only one who gets sunburned. You really have to be paying attention to see the topic of race, so I guess that's a bit of a minus as well, because you can too easily read over it, really. Another great thing is that we meet a set of foster parents. The foster parents talked about were a couple that consisted of two women, and when asked why they gave Flora and Julian up, we like implicitly learned that, though it's never said that way, they really felt like they were discriminated against by like the foster system because of them being two women. They couldn't take them on or something. It wasn't deemed appropriate, something like that. And Flora then reacts, my eyes go big. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Having two moms was part of what made this home work so well. So that's just really cool to throw that in there. Overall, this book just really packed it all up very well. What begins as like a moderately light, fluffy middle grade story really handles deeper themes as well, without being like a heavy story. But we talk about foster care and what it does to a child, and mental health, family, dealing with changes in life, stuff like that. There's some diversity in there. I wouldn't give it like a big diversity cookie. It is in there, and that should be acknowledged. I think this is a really great way for kids to learn that there are a lot of different people and not everyone has one mommy and one daddy, and that's just really important. I also think this one is really interesting for an older audience as well, because I really loved it. I gave Forever, or A Long Long Time, 4 out of 5 stars, and I hope you do pick it up. It's out March 7th, so keep an eye out for it. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you soon. Bye.